What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one armed madman, and with me today we've got Greg Dayley. Greg, it's good to have you on. How we doing?
Thanks. Doing super well. Thanks for having me.
Nah, not a problem, man. I think we're gonna have an interesting conversation here. We seem to
I
have
think so
quite a bit in
too.
common. So why don't you just start off by giving us the rundown? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, so I actually grew up right down the road from you in as you called it, the future free state of Greater Idaho.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a
um,
catch. I don't think it's
no,
actually gonna
anyway,
happen,
so
to be honest. I hope we'll do a Greater Idaho type of thing, but honestly, I don't see it happening in my lifetime, so
there's so many political wins. I always think about this is getting off track already, but I
that's
always
okay.
think about how like the way state lines are drawn in the US makes about as much sense as like the way they drew the lines in the Middle East, like when the
Mhm.
colonial powers all drew it up. And so there's been constant wars and bickering up there, like pretending that Western Oregon is the same as Eastern Oregon is just wild to me.
Yeah, it's
Like,
crazy.
or even like Southern Idaho and Northern Idaho, like they're very different too. And so I don't know. I think it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I think
it's
we'd
ridiculous.
benefit from doing some realignment, but it's never going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. Like, it's just one of those things where, you know, I don't know though. Like it would only take one spot in the country to actually do it, and then it would be like floodgates opening. So, but
Totally, and have
like
like good results from it.
yeah, but like
Because
this political shit is just a fight to the death. Like it's just a fight to the death for control, and
it's
Portland
what it
wants
is.
control, Boise wants control, and neither one of them wants to allow any more red area to pop up in their area of control. So like I said, I don't see it happening anytime soon at all, if at all. But
Yeah.
we can hope, right?
Yeah, I think we'd all benefit because there's a lot of different ways to live good lives. And right now we're pretending that everybody has to be your way, like based on where you
Yep.
live.
Yep.
And you're like, no, you have to live our way. And because people are in these territories, they're like, yeah, but no, that's not my way. And so they fight and fight and fight rather than both picking two paths that could be good if they just were allowed to do them. But instead, we're stuck in this weird stalemate and nothing happens
Yeah.
and nobody benefits. And it's a shit show.
Yeah. Like sometimes when parents or a married couple is the marriage is unreconcilable, like you just can't fix it. There's too much going on. Like I'm divorced, my marriage was beyond fixing. And like if you've got kids, like sometimes you got to just divorce and go and make a better life for both of you, and to allow your kids to have a better life. And like that's not what's happening here. It's like, yeah, we're going to fight tooth and nail to the death every day, no matter what, because we're too scared to
'Cause-
split it up.
yeah, because 40 years ago we got married and
Yeah,
we're miserable
exactly.
and we hate each other
Yeah.
versus like the people who there's so many people who get amicably divorced.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not amicable like the day after, but like 2, 3 years later, you're like, I'm glad you're doing good. Like
Yeah. Like
I obviously liked you at one point.
my
Like,
grandparents got divorced before I was born. And so I have like four sets of grandparents. You know what I mean? And it worked out
nice.
just fine for me. Like it kind of
Yeah,
sucked for my mom and her sisters in the
totally.
beginning, but 40 years down the road, like everything was better for everyone.
Yeah, totally. Upheaval is never good. Like it's never pleasant. Let's put it that way. Upheaval's never pleasant, but sometimes the long-term effects are good.
Yeah. Yep, I
But
completely agree.
yeah, anyway, to get back
Back
to
to
your
you.
main
Yeah.
question. Yeah, my name's Greg. Started I grew up in Idaho. I've kind of bounced around the country. I've lived everywhere from Philadelphia to Honolulu. Um, just kind of doing odd jobs and selling stuff and somehow like I grew up on a small ranch out near you and somehow ended up selling hair care products through a most random turn of events and started a company that's designed to help people wash their hair without being so wasteful and so dumb. Like I'm really hyper fixated, I guess, on like the structural parts of our system that are designed to be inefficient because somebody makes money off of it.
Yeah, I
And
agree
so,
with you,
and
man.
like shampoo is like the smallest little piece of that puzzle that it could possibly be, but is a small piece that I knew more about than average and had an ability to do something about it. And so that's kind of my goal. But um yeah, kind of ultimately my goal is to help people use less stuff, be more spend less money getting scammed by companies,
Yeah.
stop buying garbage and pretending it gets recycled, and then hopefully clean up a little bit of the planet that we've messed up. Because as somebody who loves the outdoors, like it's just sometimes tragic to go out there and see the way that collectively humans are treating it. And a lot of it comes back down to like somebody makes money from exploiting it in one way or the other, and they do it for their own good and the detriment of everybody else.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the key tenets to capitalism is efficiency, right? Like you want to be efficient with the money that you're using, with your hard-earned dollars. Like right now, especially with the economic, you know, bullshit that we're dealing with in this country, like you want to be as efficient with your money as you possibly can, whether you're a business or a consumer. And, you know, it's a lot of these freaking skincare companies are just criminal in a lot of ways. Like, I've
Well,
dealt with pretty nasty skin problems my whole life. Like, for a long time, we thought I had some sort of like allergy when I was a kid. We had to like tape carpet to my leg at one point and see if like the
oh
carpet in
wow.
our house was causing the problems. And we like never really figured it out. And as I got older, it kind of like subdued a little bit. But then, like, I got hurt. I ended up getting electrocuted by power lines and like had a bunch of skin problems while I was in the hospital. And, one of the things that like it just kept happening from time to time. I would just get like a flare up where my leg would break out or my arm would break out. And like I didn't really know what was going on with it. And for some reason we ended up switching over to like an all natural like laundry detergent and immediately just completely got rid of everything. And, like, I was really surprised because I never really thought about this is, like, pre-COVID, so, like, at the time, like, I wasn't on board with I didn't really realize, like, how many companies were trying to kill us for profit.
Right.
And, you know, I ended up, like, a couple of months later, I don't remember how it happened, but I ended up, like, using some, like, clothes or it's either, like, old clothes. Oh, it was, I had, like, an old comforter and set of sheets that I hadn't washed with my new stuff, and I had to, like, throw it on my bed last minute because like, my dog took a piss on my bed by accident, and, like, I woke up the next day just completely broken out in hives and rash, and,
Holy
like,
cow.
it's freaking nuts, man. Like, I never would have guessed that even the soap is is poisonous to us.
Well, yeah, it is really crazy. And kind of back to your point about the capitalism thing. Like I think I have this I've been thinking a lot about capitalism versus free markets. And like I think a lot of times we use capitalism as just shorthand for free
Mhm.
markets. And I think free markets are like real. Like if you I studied genetics in college, so uh like evolution is a free market of adaptations, right? The adaptations that win get produced over time or
Yeah.
reproduced and they win. Um like the marriage market's a pretty free market. Like people pick partners based on what they think is going to be best for them. But like I think the fundamental flaw of like capitalism isn't that it's a free market, it's that it's a free market that's optimized for money, which money is like not even real. It's like it's a medium of exchange that we all agree is super useful tool, right? So I don't have to know the exchange rate for like shampoo to whatever gasoline. I don't have to know that like one shampoo is worth 3 gallons of gasoline because that would just be stupid.
Yeah, barter's too difficult.
Yeah, barter's dumb. Money's great. I'm a fan of money as a medium of exchange, but the problem with capitalism as it's coming to, in my opinion, is to your point of like everything comes down to profits. Everybody's optimizing for profits. And when you optimize only for one thing, you get it. And so a lot of like these businesses that are just like, they don't actually produce anything of value to people. They sit in the middle, they seek rent, they take they just figure out ways to like extract money without providing value.
Mhm.
And I think, and I don't know the answer. I'm not pretending that I have the answer to it, but I think that we need to shift the conversation. Like I think the socialism versus capitalism debate is silly because we're not addressing like the fundamental core problem of, because socialism and communism especially, I don't think they work super well because they're not free markets. And I think free markets are good things. But we have to
Yeah.
optimize a free market about something smarter and better than money.
Yeah, centralized
Then
control never works out,
no, no,
right? It
it's
just
too
can't.
complicated of a
It
system.
it is. There's too much. There's humans, praxeology, human action essentially is that like humans act, you can't really predict what they're going to do or how they're going to do it. Like you just have to adapt, right? And like
Totally.
I should have said free market capitalism when I was talking about that
Yeah.
because that's actually the ideal of capitalism is completely free markets. The problem is we don't live in a free market. We live
No.
in a market where the government picks winners and losers, and they pick the companies that they want to elevate and the companies that they want to destroy. They pick the companies that they want to, give lower interest rates to, and they pick the companies that they want, to struggle with all means necessary or just ignore completely. Like a
100%.
lot of the
Well,
problems that we're
and
dealing with right now in markets is not a function of capitalism. It's a function of government. It's a function of centralized control where, for instance, I went to college after I got hurt as a way to retrain. I have one hand and I do everything on my iPad. It's just easier for me to do everything with an iPad. I've been using Apple products since I was in my 20s essentially, like when the first freaking iPhone came out and the first pods came out. Like I've been on Apple products forever. So I go to, college and they want to bend over backwards for people with disabilities. Oh, just let us know whatever you need, blah blah blah, until it becomes a problem for them. And then things get a little dicey. So it's like, hey, I'm taking this class on, like statistics essentially. Like one of the classes I was taking was on statistics. And I'm like, "Hey, can I use my iPad for this class? Like everything on this class is, and the same thing with my accounting class. Everything's on a Windows computer. I don't know how to use a Windows computer. I never learned how to use one. Like I never even really learned how to type. Like I was not a computer guy before I got hurt. I was working on power lines.
yeah.
And, I go to them and I'm like, I can do everything that you guys are doing on my iPad. It's not going to look exactly the same, but it's all the same for the most part. Like I'm going to be doing the same graphs, I'll be doing the same spreadsheets, I'll be able to do the same, accounting type of thing. Nope, can't do it. And the reason for that is because Microsoft is a monopoly. They're a government enforced monopoly, and they have deals with every frickin' school in the country to where they are only allowed to use Microsoft products, not even allowed to use an iPad, even when somebody, it's not like I'm asking them to change the entire class. I'm asking them to make my life easier and your life a little bit harder for a couple of months while I'm in your class. And nope, you can't do it. And like that's to me, that's not a function of capitalism. That's a
No.
function of government.
Well, yes, and it's here's the thing I think about that is government allows bullies are going to be bullies, right?
Yeah.
That's it's always been that way. And the function that I see for government is to uh not let bullies be bullies. Like that's like their main function in my opinion is to like when somebody is hyper successful like Microsoft was and then they start you like by they obviously made a good product and marketed it better than everybody else in the 80s to take over that market. I wasn't really around for that,
Me neither.
at least not aware, you know,
Yeah.
I wasn't making those decisions, but they obviously won that market. And where like the market stagnates is when companies are allowed to use that advanced position that they have to repress competition,
Mhm.
like in your example. And so, in some ways, like the government needs to say, hey, you can't do that. And in other ways, the government gets, well, really what happens is the government gets bought off by them donating to politicians, and the
Exactly.
politicians
Yep.
then they condone it, they codify it, and they make it worse.
Yep.
And so it's kind of a it's this I think it's a logical conclusion of what happens in markets if there's not somebody there to like push back on the bullies. And I don't know. And because of our divisions, because like we were talking about in the beginning,
Yeah.
because everybody got their own side, you want your bully to win rather than being like, yeah, how about maybe just like no bullies? Like
Yeah.
maybe we just like pretend that uh we live up to the ideals of the country that all men are created equal.
Yeah,
And
maybe we stop sacrificing the individual for the good of the whole, you know? And, like, I remember when I got hurt, one of the things that, like, was big in medicine was like, we're going to have individualized medicine. You're going to be able to go to your doctor and they're going to be able to take a blood test and they're going to be able to see how you work, how your system works, and they're going to be able to tailor medications to you exactly. So it won't be this one size fits all, you know, system where, maybe this medication works for you, maybe it doesn't. And then, a couple years later, COVID hits and it's right back to nope, everybody has to take exactly the same thing. And if you don't want to take the exact same thing as everybody else, you're a Nazi, essentially, right? And it
it
was just this, our country was founded on individual rights. You know what I mean? Like the right of the individual supersedes the right of the whole. It always should because people like are individuals. People are never the same. Like I don't know what you're thinking, you don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know how I'm going to act in a certain situation and vice versa. And like to think that we went from a system of individual liberty to a system of like basics, social control through centralized power is a really sad realization when you kind of read some of the, founders' documents and how they, thought that this country was going to go, what they wanted to build versus what they've got right now. I like to say that, like, as a joke, there was a fire at Thomas Jefferson's grave recently because he was, just rolling in it constantly, and the friction just lit the whole
smoldering.
thing on
Yeah.
fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it is interesting. And we get so distracted in pretending that, one side or the other is like doing it to us. And like it's not. Like I think I was just reading about it today, so Charlie Kirk thing happened,
Yeah.
and the the in-group in power uses that to seize control more for themselves. And what was it? The one of the Jimmy guys, the
Yeah.
late night
Jimmy
guys, they
Kimmel.
cancel him.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Oh, he shouldn't have said bad things." But you're only mad because, you know, they did it to Trump, or they did it to like Facebook back when the Trump's first term. And everybody's like, I'm like, they're doing the same thing. Like just one side is doing it to the other. And like you're happy when your side's doing it and sad when the other. Like what is you're missing the point here. Like they're not you're not on their team.
Yeah.
That's my view. I
Yeah.
don't think
No,
they're not on our team.
I'm with you. Like, I don't think anybody should be like, I think that there should be social consequences for saying things that are, you know, out of line, essentially. Like, if you say something completely ridiculous and your boss goes, hey, you know what? We can't have that. Like, you're fired. Like, I don't have a problem with that. And I do have a problem with centralized control saying this is what you can and can't say. the deal with the Jimmies and these late night people is they've been disgusting since, COVID essentially to me. And like they've done and said some things that I just think are abhorrent. And like while I stand up for free speech, I'm also not really sad for the guy. You know what I mean? Like I do hope that we would get to a point where no, like so on the Charlie Kirk thing, like here in Idaho, there was a vigil recently for Charlie Kirk outside of the Capitol House. There was hundreds of people standing out there with candles and just being like good Christians, like praying for the guy and just being nice people essentially. And some guy came through on a bird scooter or whatever those things are called and started yelling, "Fuck Charlie Kirk, this guy's a Nazi, blah blah blah." And they, kind of beat the hell out of him. And while like I'm a libertarian, I don't like people getting beat up for no reason. Like I also don't really feel sorry for you either. So it's like one of those deals where, like,
I
do
mean,
I
if you
think
poke a
that the guy should have
bear,
been
like,
fired? Probably not. But do I really care at all? No. Like these guys didn't stand up for us during COVID. They called us every name in the book for not wanting to, I don't know if you took vaccine. I didn't take a vaccine. And like I got so much shit from it from so many people. And like late night was a big catalyst to that. And, I'm not really sorry for you. Sorry, Jimmy.
well, I mean, I'm not sorry for him either. I
Yeah.
don't think he added much to the world,
No, me neither.
but that's to me, that's not important.
Yeah.
Like to me, it is the centralized control of like using levers
Yeah.
to use the power of the state uh
Crush people.
to pressure speech.
Yeah.
And like it was wrong when they did it for like the social media platforms against people. It
Yeah.
was wrong when they're doing it now. And we just it I find it really concerning. Like I've spent a decent amount of time looking around the various places, various like silos where people talk about stuff, about the Charlie Kirk stuff.
Yeah.
And this I find it scary how there is no consensus whatsoever on what happened, why it happened. Sorry, we there's somebody doing the lawn.
Oh, I can't hear it at all.
Oh, you can't hear it?
Nope.
Oh, it's so loud on my end. I'm glad you can't hear it. Then my mic's good.
Yeah.
Um, oh, it's so loud. Um, anyway, there's just no consensus on like what truth is. And when you've weaponized like information as much our as our culture has, and this isn't recent, it's going at least back to World War II. My knowledge of like American political history gets pretty vague before then. There's the founding and then a bunch of stuff happens and then World War II
Yeah.
happens. Like
Yeah.
that's my understanding of the world.
Yeah. I'm not a historian either.
Yeah. But like there was this big consolidation of power. They started using radio and TV. I mean, if we're being really honest, like the Germans mastered the art of mass propaganda. They took power, did a bunch of stuff, and the every other government in the world was like, I mean, I wish we had that much control over our people. We should do the same thing. And like, not saying that they're all Nazis. The Nazis were exceptionally good at propaganda. And I feel like most of the information we've been fed for the last 70 years has been propaganda. And now nobody knows what's true. Like it is bonkers to me. And there's no trust left in authority because they've lied to us 6 ways from Sunday.
Yeah.
And so like my that to me is the real loss. And not that like pretending it because of Charlie Kirk is like pretending that October 7th is what started the conflict in
Exactly.
Palestine. Like
Exactly. Like, yeah.
it's been going. People have been doing heinous stuff back and forth to the other groups. When your group's in power, you do heinous stuff to the other stuff with the power of the state. And then the other group, people get sick of it and they're like, okay, we'll vote for the other guy because you guys are obviously jerks. And then it just flips back the other way. And we're in this cycle and we're just like one upping each other, being more and more heinous to each other. And nobody's listening, nobody's like treating other people like they're human.
Yeah.
Like everybody is othered. And when I mean that's like that's what I don't know, to me that's the most scary thing that's happening is everybody is an other.
Yeah. And I
Like,
I think that, like, this really got energy, this, like, type of, fight to the death for the controls of government kind of like, it's been going on for a long time, but it really, really energized after the financial crisis in 2008. I think that, like, one of the main things that was going on back then was, Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party, and these
yeah,
were, like, different different politically aligned people. You had left wingers who were, fired up about banks and bailouts and all of this crap. And then you had right wingers that were kind of fired up about the same things,
100%.
and they were all standing in Central Park yelling, "We are the 99%." And as
Yep.
soon as that happened, you can go and look on, like, I don't know what it's called exactly, but you can, like, search terms that were used online and in popular society, like, by the year. And once you get into all of this, like, for lack of a better term, we'll call it woke ideology, where you essentially weaponize people to go against each other for their skin color, for their political ideology, for their backgrounds, for their social beliefs. Like, this stuff was all set up to kind of shift the focus from the banks and the financial, aspects of our country that are destroying people into culture wars. And,
Yeah,
like, they've done a great job at it. They really have. Like, they've been very
absolutely.
successful. And this is like, if Alex Jones, one of the best things he ever came up with was the term information war. This is an information war, info wars. Like,
Yeah,
that's exactly what is going on. And, like, I feel like, you know, there's really not a lot of difference between the 2 parties. There is social differences. There are, one is fighting for gay marriage while the other is fighting for, a more Christian society, but, like, these are kind of just side issues. Like, the main issues here are the economic and fiscal policies of the state, and for the most part, the Democrats and Republicans go hand in hand on
100%.
anything economic. Like, we're never going back to pre-COVID level spending. The Republicans, like, aren't even trying to be fiscally responsive
Oh my
anymore.
gosh.
Like, they're just
No.
as out of control as anybody. These lowering the interest rates is doing nothing but helping asset owners. Like, there's asset owners and there's everybody else. And, like,
Yep.
lowering these interest rates is just going to infuse more money into the system. It's going to cause more inflation. But for
Mhm.
the sake of, making the economy look like it's roaring better than it actually is so they can win the midterms, and, like, this is going to be very, very bad for normal people, and
E Yep. Ever since the financial crisis, they've had the floodgates of money open. It was
yep.
through quantitative easing, it was through, tax cuts, it was through all these things that add more money to the system. And back to your point about the Occupy Wall Street thing and the left and right coming, like, agreeing on the same thing. I really think, like, we talk about, like, left and right as if it's, a one-dimensional linear line
Yeah.
with the left and right being opposite sides. And that's like taking a map of the globe and looking at flattening it out and being like, wait a second, Kansas and Colorado look identical. Like, oh wait, one has 14,000-foot peaks and one is flat as a pancake. Like, but we live in like they want to simplify it to people because you can control people if they're on a point on a line, but really our beliefs are like they're on this like three-dimensional scatter plot all over the place and nobody two nobodies whatever no two peoples are the same. And I really think like it's a globe, the left and the right, they come back closer together than they are apart. Like we think about them super far apart,
Yeah.
but they come back together and they're really close together. They disagree on semantics, and just like any the biggest fights between people are between people who are similar. Like, the groups that are the most similar have the most vicious fights
Mhm.
because 'cause they're fighting over small semantic differences, like, should Christian marriage be better than gay marriage? Like, who
Yeah.
cares?
Like, if
Like,
you're truly conservative, like, maybe the government shouldn't be involved in marriage at all. Maybe that's not their job to be involved in marriage. That's the way I look at it. Like,
I mean,
I
me
don't think the
too.
government
Like,
has any reason like, why is it that I had to go and, have a judge sign my marriage certificate? Like, what business is it of yours who I spend my life with and share my time with, share my money and raise a family with? Like, that should have nothing to do with the government whatsoever. I think
agreed.
that's
And I
just
think,
stupid.
I mean, and like stuff like that, like if you really break it down, like, I don't know, I think we're all so much more similar. Like, there's a really small window that the Republicans and Democrats cover that is total corporate oligarchy, that they are incentivized to maintain.
Yeah.
But almost nobody is in that. Like, nobody else, everybody else, we're fighting about wedge issues, things that don't matter. Like you said, identity politics, or you called it wokeism, but I would call it
Yeah,
identity
identity politics
politics.
is a
Yeah,
much better term for it, for
yeah, I
sure,
think because
because that's
it's,
that's exactly what it is, and
yeah, they've convinced us that, like, you know, me and you, because we're white dudes from Idaho, have to think the same versus like a black person from Alabama versus like an Asian person from Southern California, like, or a gay person or this or that. Like, what does that have to do with like how your brain works?
yeah, it's
Like,
ridiculous. Like, so my ex-wife was, her family was Persian. They're from Iran. They moved over here in the '70s after the whole debacle with the Shah, and, like, we got married at my family's property, and I wasn't really, like s and see, this is back in, like, 2010, and I lived in San Francisco for many years from, like, 2010 to, like, 2015, essentially, and, like, I hung out with deadheads that were clearly liberal, and, like, I was different than them. I didn't know anything about politics back then because I was young and, like, into drugs and stuff like that. I really wasn't, like, into politics in any way whatsoever. When I saw the Occupy Wall Street movement, I was like, "Oh, these are just homeless people looking for a place to sleep on the sidewalk," which was kind of true, and, like,
there were some of those.
there was, especially in San Francisco. And like I got along with these people great. Like we had, great times. We went on ski trips together. We hung out during the week. I went to hundreds of baseball games with these people. And now like they think that I'm crazy and I think they're a little bit crazy because of these like social issues that have, screwed everybody. So anyways, like back to when I got married, I I never even thought about like, what are the consequences of having an interracial marriage? Like that never came into my mind in 2015. It just wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah.
Like racism was kind of just one of those things that was in the past. And it's really, it kind of accelerated as, Trump came into the picture. And there was my grandfather was the one person who I had to like pull aside and be like, hey, look, no, like, jokes about turning the Middle East into a parking lot, like, we don't need any of that, like, he was the only
Right.
guy that I really worried about with this, and he kind of, like, "Oh, yeah," brushed me off on it, and, like, he said a couple things that were insensitive to say the least, but he ended up, like, becoming friends with my ex-wife's uncle. They talked like the entire night about the stock market and,
Totally.
just stuff that didn't really matter politically. Like, you know, aside from like the war in the Middle East, like that was the only thing that he knew about Middle Eastern people. He never met somebody from the Middle East before. He didn't, his policy was turn the place into a parking lot, but like why is that your policy? Because some guy on the TV told you that that's what we need to do? Like, wouldn't it be better to sit down with this guy and talk to him for a couple hours and find out what he's about? And like, he had to pry them apart at the end of the night. They had a great night talking with each other. And it's like, that can happen so easily if you just like suspend your disbeliefs and your preconceived notions of how you're supposed to think about somebody.
Well, and absolutely. Like, and that happens almost every time. Like, with people talk to people, all of those like like these fake walls that we've put up around on who people are, they melt away because people are so similar. Like, um, I mean, my grandpa did something super similar. My cousin uh married a Mexican girl, and my grandpa he wasn't like, he was racist against Mexicans. Never like super bad, but
Yeah. So was my grandfather. He was a racist
Yeah, I
guy.
mean,
Like,
they were it was pretty common,
yeah,
especially for guys in Idaho back then,
yeah.
but I don't know if your family's originally
No,
from
Northern
there, but
California, but
oh,
back then, it was no different than Idaho. Like, the town that I grew up in Northern California feels exactly like the town that I live in Idaho now, except a whole lot smaller. But that town in Northern California now is just completely changed, and they're like in the last election, they voted like 90% blue, which is just crazy.
yeah, I mean, my mom's family's from Northern California, actually, so that's funny.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, like, he married this girl, she's amazing, and he was like he told me one time, I don't know why, he was just, like, flabbergasted, he's like, "She's amazing, and she's Mexican, her whole family's amazing, and, like, maybe Mexicans are amazing." I was like, "Yeah, a lot of them are, and a lot of them are assholes." And, like, what like, that doesn't matter. Like, people are people, and judge people for who they are. And, I don't know. I think in a the identity politics anyway, it has been weaponized against us. We are pre-programmed to be, like, leery of people who are different from us. I think that's if somebody's from a different tribe, you don't know if they're gonna kill you or not, you know? So you're just like, "Oh, you you're more leery of them."
Yeah, and
But, like
especially, like, when so, like, say you're a religious conservative, you might have more in common with a Hispanic family who's religious and very conservative than you do with your liberal neighbor, you know what I mean? Like,
well
that's a possibility, and they don't look at things like that because, again, like, you've got this view on immigration that, like, everybody who's coming over here is trying to take everything from you, and you don't think that like, "Hey, maybe I do have a lot in common with these people."
and to even go further, like, a lot of these really liberal people who don't believe at all in religion are highly spiritual.
Yeah,
And, like, you might disagree on the source of the spirituality, but it's not a whole lot different than, like, a Lutheran and a Christian, or, like, a Catholic, I mean. Like, they disagree on a lot of stuff, but, like, kinda not everything.
how much different is the Big Bang Theory from Let There Be Light? Like, you know what I mean? It seems to be the same thing. You might argue about what the source of that is, but essentially, like, to me, it's the same thing. Even an atheist has to agree that, like, whatever the Big Bang was a miracle, you know?
Yeah, and it we I don't know, humans are I think we long to be tribal, and I don't
It's in
know
our
that there's a
DNA.
problem with, like, having tribes. I think it's good to be close with people and think similar thoughts to other people,
Yeah.
but, like, the othering of people is who are different is, like, a fundamental core thing. It's been happening forever. I don't know that I'm certainly never gonna change it
No.
in, like,
No.
on a global sense, because but I'm certainly not gonna buy into it. I'm just gonna treat people like people and love them and try to do what I can do to make the world better. And you know what? And not judge them for things I think that they're doing that make the world worse. Cause I'm gonna assume the best of them because that's best for me.
Yeah.
Like the hate, the the vitriol, the like joy in other people's suffering is like it's terrible, and nobody has a monopoly on that. No group has a monopoly on, like, virtue. No group has a monopoly on hatred. No group has a monopoly on anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something I've been really concerned about in the last little bit in terms of, like, just the way discourse is. Like, I guarantee you and I disagree on a lot of stuff. Like, I'm probably I don't know.
Yeah. It's
Like,
hard to
I'm
say.
super I would outclass myself as like nearly an environmental zealot. Like, I think that we should have oodles of wilderness space. I think we should like cut back on logging and fishing massively and return because I love being out in the forest and the mountains and seeing like this majestic beauty. And when you're out there a lot, and you have been for, I mean, I'm not that old, I'm 40, but like I've even seen a decline in the world in the 40 years I've been going outside, and I don't want that to happen. Like we live up kind of between Seattle and Vancouver, Washington. So up north, um, an old fishing logging town that's also a college town. So it's like this weird amalgamation of, all of the people. And so you see people who are all types, but you go out in the forest and everybody can agree that it's sad that there's a 16-foot in diameter tree stump and no 1,000-foot tall tree or whatever,
Yeah. No, dude, and
like,
you read my mind. That's actually really funny because I was gonna pivot to, like, climate change.
yeah.
And, it's interesting because, like, someone like me, like, I would consider myself an environmentalist. I grew up in the forest. I used to hunt and fish from time to time. Like, I rode dirt bikes and, like, one of the best things about riding dirt bikes is going out into the forest and seeing natural habitat at its best and getting to explore on, something that you enjoy doing, right? And they've siloed people off as you either have to be for climate change or you want to kill the planet. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and it's not that simple, right? Like, a lot of climate change is propaganda and bullshit. And like, I think in a lot of ways, like, right-wing people who, quote, "don't believe in climate change" are probably more environmentally, like, friendly than a lot of the liberals who are screaming about it online or on the news, and because, they're living in cities and polluting just as bad as everybody else, and they don't really go out into nature and see it in its natural form. To them, I think a lot of, people who, like, live in cities, to them, like, nature is not something that should be exploited. It should be viewed from afar, essentially, and they don't really want people going out into nature. Like, so one of the things that happened when I grew up was, like, we grew up on two-stroke dirt bikes, and
Mhm.
environmentalists were just had a hard on for two strokes my entire, young adult life, and the industry kind of acquiesced to them and said, "Okay, look, we're gonna pivot and build these four-stroke bikes because they'll be more environmentally friendly and blah, 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 blah." Well, they immediately started going after the four strokes too because it was never really about what type of engine is in your dirt bike. It was about, we don't want you riding dirt bikes in the forest.
Yeah,
You know
you're
what I
you're
mean?
you're doing outside wrong.
Exactly. That's a
And
great way of putting it.
like I prefer to walk there. I like it. I like the quiet of it. I don't mind it taking longer and seeing less. And I like that there are places that I can do that.
Yeah.
My dad used to work for Recluse there in Boise
Yeah.
area.
I
And
have a recluse clutch in this bike.
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Uh the and there's places that people can go ride dirt bikes.
Yeah.
And like why they're not mutually exclusive. Like
I
you
think a
can,
lot of these people don't realize how much nature there actually is in the United States. Like,
well, in the Western US, I lived out east for a while.
yeah,
We're
that's a good
blessed.
point. Like, I haven't been over to the East Coast, but, like, I remember I went to Alaska when I was, like, 18. We went on a cruise from, Vancouver all the way up the Inner Passage into, Alaska, and on the way back, like, when you're flying back, it's like, there's nothing. It's just hours and hours and hours of empty forest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and on the flip side, like, if you look at, like, a Google map, you zoom out and you look at all the places, like, you know, it's green. In the like, the Pacific Northwest, a lot of it's green, and then you see these tendrils of cities and human
Yeah.
activity, like, going and, like, I don't know, to me, it looks like cancer, like, taking over and, like, and there's people out there exploiting it and making a lot of money on it, and there's also some truth that, like, I'm like, I like to have like lumber available to build things
Yeah.
because wood's awesome, but also like it's chopping down like the working forest we have here.
Yeah.
they're green deserts. Like nothing lives there. Like there's Doug fir and that's it. Nothing else
Yeah.
really lives in most of them. And
Yeah.
so like there's like these contradictions in everything that to me, this is what kills me. And this is where I think like we're totally missing the point because we don't nobody makes money off of this. The solution to most of our environmental problems are just to do less. It costs zero money or saves you money.
Yeah.
Like,
Or be smarter with the
well,
materials that
that's
we
all it
have,
is.
you
Like,
know?
it's
Just
so
if
easy
like,
to
it's
cut
right back to
20,
where we were
30.
in the beginning is efficiency. Like, you have to be
Yeah.
efficient. And, like, I think that cutting down the old growth redwoods is one of the biggest mistakes we've ever made in this country. But I
Yeah.
also think, like, I know loggers. I worked for tree workers, you know, I worked as a tree worker for a while, and, like, they've gotten smarter than that. If they had the ability to go into the Sequoia National Forest and cut down the old growth, you know, logs that exist today, they wouldn't do it because they know that there's more money in selling tickets and selling tours than there is in cutting those things down. And like, I think like we have so much waste material and recycling is just such bullshit. Like, you know, like you
Especially
could
specifically plastic recycling.
exactly. Like, I
Yeah.
have a recycling bin at my house that I have to put certain things into because it won't be taken if I don't. But if you go follow those trucks out to the dump, they dump everything in the same pile. It's just a it's it's a boondoggle to get you to pay double to do the same exact thing. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, so I actually so I sell this I don't people can't see. It's like basically we take shampoo, it's just a concentrated shampoo, we put it in like a plastic deodorant stick.
Uh-huh.
And then refills come in these cardboard boxes and you
Oh,
just pop
cool.
a new one in. And I always tell people, I tell everybody every time, I'm like, and then refills come in cardboard so you don't have to pretend your plastic bottles get recycled.
Yeah.
Because like I personally think plastic is kind of a miracle substance.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you could have gone back to like Genghis Khan or something and been like, "Hey, here's the deal. I'll give you 3 5-gallon plastic jerry cans if you spare my village." He'd been like, "That's a good deal. I don't have to drink out of bladders." Like
Yeah.
plastic is incredible, but because it lasts forever, it's light, it's cheap, it's can be formed into anything. It's doesn't rot and but because it's inexpensive to make, we treat it like it's cheap and just throw it away.
Yeah.
And people benefit from that. Not us, not the planet, but the people who make plastic, the people who sell plastic have an incentive to do that. And that's where like it drives me crazy that like so many things on top of that, specifically shampoo, because this is what I think about a lot. But shampoo is like 80 or 90% water. Hair conditioners 95% water. So like we're buying these big plastic jugs of water to use in our shower. We throw them away. They don't get recycled. And everybody's like, oh no, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, we
like
could
it
be
is a
using
small thing, but we use a 1.6 billion in the country every year of these
wow.
plastic bottles. Like it's dumb. It's some of the dumbest plastic in your life that provides absolutely no value. And so I get really worked up about it because
Yeah.
it's such a dumb thing. It's a small thing, but it's a dumb thing that adds up to be like not insignificant.
And like, dude, we could be substituting plastic for wood in a lot of building. If you could, like, we already do it with Trex decking. Like, you know, that decking that
Yeah.
they make that's like Trex, it's like this plastic deck. It lasts forever. It's cheaper to make than, you know, your wood deck for a lot of time. And like, they could recycle this stuff and turn it into building materials for your house. You could be using installation that is, you know, plastic, just ground up plastic that is, you know, you don't even have to like put it through any sort of like refinement process or anything like that. You just grind it up and sell it as in, you know, by the barrel to where you can, you know, throw it in your house instead of fiberglass installation. We could be using studs made out of plastic. Like we could be 3D printing building materials at this point where you know you build the entire house out of plastic. It would even probably be stronger in a lot of cases. It would clearly last longer. You know, there's like right now I'm have to go out and do a bunch of wood trim on the exterior of my house because over the years it's gotten wet and started to rot. And like
Yeah.
you could do Trex stuff, and they do make it, and it's becoming more popular now. But like it's one of those things where we've gotten used to doing it the same way for so long. And so, like, when I was younger, I started a biodiesel company with one of my buddies. Like, we were
Mm,
sitting around one day, and he had a great business mind. He was always coming up with ideas for new companies, and we were talking about biodiesel one day, and he was like, "Well, what if we did a company?" You know, and we live down in Southern California in the Temecula, Murrieta, Lake
yeah,
Elsinore area where dirt bikes are hugely popular. And we were like, "Okay, so what do we have around here that we could utilize?" So a lot of the people that live in that area were from Orange County. They sold their multi-million dollar homes, came over and bought a $200,000 home, and then they bought a motor home and dirt bikes. And every like, there's this big, dune area out there called Glamis that people go and ride dirt bikes at all the time, and there's one choke point where everybody has to drive through to get to those dunes, and my idea was like, "Okay, well, what if we build a gas station there? We can build this, biodiesel product that is better for your engine. It gives you more gas, more mileage, better mileage. It lets your engine last longer because it's a
yeah,
lubricant instead of an accelerant." And, like, this would be a good thing. And what else do we have around us? Well, we have all of these, quote, "environmentally friendly companies" that have fryers in their restaurants. We have schools that are supposedly environmentally friendly that, you know, these people would love to give us their oil. We could even pay them for the oil a little bit because we're gonna be turning a profit on it. And turns out that, like, the system isn't set up for this, clearly. Like, it ended up not working out and the company folded. But, like, one of the wild things to me was, like, we were, like, looking online for environmentally friendly companies in the area that would have oil for us to take. And you would go to them and you go, "Well, we'd love to, but we're ran by a corporation, and corporate has a deal with some company to come and pick up the oil, and even though we have to pay them a lot of money for it, we couldn't give you the oil if we wanted to. And, we don't know if what happens if you don't come and pick it up." Same thing with schools. Like, "Oh, our entire district has a deal with this company that comes and does our oil." And, like, what are they doing with the oil after they pick it up? They're probably throwing it away. You know what I mean? They're not recycling it. They're not cleaning it and putting it back into use. And, like, all of these quote unquote environmentally friendly companies wanted nothing to do with actually doing something environmentally friendly. They just wanted to talk the talk and not walk the walk.
that's kind of an unfortunate common thing. Like a lot of people virtue signal a lot of things, and I think that's a big like point of contention. I mean, I grew up in Idaho. I know exactly how people talk about
Yeah.
liberals. They're like liberals. They're not real. They're just virtue signaling, and a lot of them are. And I mean, the left says that about Christians. You're not really Christian. You're just virtue signaling. And you know
Yep.
what? They're
A lot
right.
of
A
them
lot of
are.
them
Yeah.
are.
Yep.
And the people just using it to project their worldviews. But back to your point about the system not being set up for it, and it's because there's a phrase I like to use all the time: your waste is somebody else's profit.
Hmm.
Because our system, like people only need so much shampoo. See, people only need so much gas. People only need so much of these products. But how do you get them to sell more? Like in college, I took a class, it was like a marketing class. We read this paper about this guy increased sales at his, it was a shampoo company. They increased sales of shampoo by like 15% by making the hole on the top of your shampoo spout slightly larger diameter, and people wasted more.
Mm.
Like and every they like were like, this is like a genius move. And I was like, for who? Like, it's bad for the planet, it's bad for your customers, it's only good for you.
Hmm.
And I think like that that comes back around to that concept of like optimizing our free market around money and profits is a fundamental flaw that makes it that way. Like if we somehow were able to capture the value you provide and charge for that versus just the amount of money you can extract. Like, and it wasn't really like, I think our system used to be more like that. Like it used to be more like companies provide a good service, a good value, and they make money and they're successful. But like the most successful companies now, the ones that make the most money, that people celebrate the most, a lot of them aren't providing real services. They're extracting value.
Like, look at
And
this iPad that I talked so great about. It has a planned obsolescence model to it.
absolutely. And like Facebook, like they give you the ability to connect with people, siphon off all your data and sell it to the highest bidder. And I've worked on the back end of that kind of stuff, not like as a programmer, but like watching how the algorithms have changed
Mhm.
and how they've like made it into a pay for play system. And this that's just how so many things happen. And there's like I think I'm starting to think about the best way of like fighting back against it is figuring out because it's a system that only speaks one language.
Yeah.
Like it only speaks money. And your money isn't significant, but our money and 10,000 of our friends' money is significant. And it's a system that's highly responsive to financial signals. And if companies start seeing their bottom lines hit, like boycotts work,
Yeah,
like
they do,
they just
and
do.
we've seen that in the past couple years. One of the things that I talk about a lot is vehicles. So, like, my dad bought a diesel pickup in 1993. That truck is a tank. It's got 500,000 miles on it, and it's gonna run for another 500,000, right? And,
Yeah.
like, the newer vehicles that they're putting out are, quote, unquote, "more environmentally friendly," but what they've done to them is they've sacrificed quality in order to have it, emit less carbon, essentially. And what that does is like now, instead of a diesel pickup lasting you 500,000 to 1,000,000 miles, it's lasting you 200,000. And does that even like
Like the
the
lifetime
the
cost of
the
that vehicle
lifetime
goes up.
cost goes up, the recycled non-recycled cost of it goes up. Like, I don't think that they're offsetting the carbon that they're creating by having to make more vehicles, right? Instead
Yeah.
of buying a vehicle every 20 or 30 years, you have to buy one every 5 to 10 years. So you've got more waste, you've got more, you know, mining, you've got more transportation of parts and labor. Like, you've got this whole global supply chain that's required to build a car now. Like, when I grew up, like, there was people that were a Chevy person or a Ford person, and like now it doesn't matter. These are corporate, companies that don't care about you. They have nothing to do with the families that created these companies. Like, I wouldn't even imagine that there's a Ford on the board of Ford anymore. Like,
I think Ford is the one exception on
is it?
that, but your point, they don't control it.
No.
Like they might be one of the larger shareholders,
Yeah,
but
and I
they're
mean, they're
far from
building
controlling
these
it.
things in Mexico and other countries. Like, this is not your grandfather's Ford anymore. Like, this is just some corporate conglomerate that is making a car to extract your wealth.
Yeah,
And like the
100%.
costs have gone up so much, and of course they're ugly. You can walk, you go and look on the road as they're driving by. Everything's
And they're
ugly now.
so huge.
Yeah,
Like it always boggles my mind. Like I'm like, what do you need? A F-150 that's can't even pull that much in the first place. Why does it need to be like enormous?
yeah,
Like they're as big as a semi. Like I swear,
yeah,
like they're
and like
huge and they're
and
pointless.
And
And
then you've
like,
got, like, other even, like, Honda right now. Like, my buddy was talking about buying a Honda CR-V recently. I was like, "Oh, dude, you can't buy one of those vehicles." Like, they have this transmission, and it's just called a CVT transmission, which is like a snowmobile transmission where it doesn't shift. You just hit the throttle and it goes. But these things
oh,
get smoked like crazy. And Honda being, a terrible company, just like all of these other companies, don't make replacement parts for this transmission. So if the transmission is smoked on your vehicle, you have to buy an entire new transmission. You can't just buy a
yeah.
new belt and put on the new belt. You have to buy the entire new transmission. And it's ridiculous. Like, they're
John Deere, how they've locked down their tractors.
yep,
Like it is systemic and it all comes back to like extracting more value out of the end user.
it's rent
And
seeking.
it's rent seeking. It's 100% rent seeking behavior. And they lock down it. They lock down the industries. Adding that complexity benefits those companies because they have the money to engineer these asinine systems. Whereas if like you and I were like, you know what? I think we can do a better diesel engine. Like, let's cobble together 200K, let's get a little shop, let's build a better diesel engine.
Yeah.
We could like, I'm not an engineer, but, like, it's not that hard to build a basic diesel engine. You could build a rock solid diesel engine for not that much, and you could be like, "Look, it's better." But what we probably couldn't do is, like, have it do this, and this, and this, and
Mhm.
this, and this. And, like, when you add that complexity, it locks in their position as a market leader, so they don't then they no longer have competition coming up from
Yep.
below,
And the
and
government would
that
probably crush you because they've already picked who's gonna be winners and who's gonna be losers, you know? And we know that they can make a cheap pickup right now. Toyota makes a pickup called the Helix, which they
yeah,
sell. It's a really cool little truck. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like a stripped down Tacoma. It's like a four-door. They sell them in Thailand for, like, 8 grand. But if you wanna
yeah,
buy one here in the United States, it costs you 50 to get it over here.
totally. And I mean, the government, like we should probably stop pretending that the government's any different than this conglomeration of big companies that own most things.
Yeah.
Like they just own the politicians. Like it's kind of crazy. But like Boeing's a great example of that. We used to live like just down the street from where they made the 747 when it was still in production. And all of the guys, just our whole neighborhood was full of Boeing guys. They'd been machinists there forever, engineers there, and they'd be like, yeah, as soon as MacArthur Douglas, like that merger, and they moved the corporate office, we went from being an engineering company that made great planes to being a financial company who made planes that crash and kill people. Like, but Boeing's share price has gone up. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like, and who benefits? Not the people flying them, not the people making them, not the people using the products, only the people selling the products. And it's like a universal thing, and it drives me crazy. And people need to like just start voting with your dollars more,
Yep.
like buy things from companies that make good products that last. And unfortunately, most of them are really small, so they don't have economies of scale. They cost more, but you're gonna get better value in the long run. If you Unfortunately, that's another thing that's broken. Like the it used to be if you paid more for something, it was better. Marketers found that out and now they just charge more for crappy stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like that social contract of pay more for quality takes more research now. It's not as simple as being like, this I mean, I can't even think of an example, but you know exactly what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. There's
And,
so
like,
many versions.
and then you've got, like, these ESG policies where, like, you've got environmentally, so, like, your shampoo is an environmentally friendly company, and
Totally.
I've akined, ESG policies to a cap on small business. If you wanna take your business from a small business to a large business, you have to do this, like, ESG game, and I would guarantee with every dollar that I have that your company is more environmentally friendly than, like, Dove, who makes soaps and all that kinda crap. Like, I don't know who owns them, but they would give
Unilever,
you
but yeah.
a lower a lower ESG score than Dove because you didn't do X, Y, and Z, or maybe you didn't say the right things on social media, blah, 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 blah,
Or
blah.
they don't
And
have team of 5 people to jump through all the hoops.
exactly, exactly. And if you wanna do, take your company to the next level, like, oh, let's see, you're gonna have to do A, B, C, D, and E. And that's gonna make your company less efficient. It's gonna make it, your product price go up, and
Well,
all it's really gonna do is hurt your profit and the consumer.
and it's a big advantage to the bigger companies
Yep,
because they distribute that cost of a team over 500, $1 billion in sales over versus $1 million in sales. It's
yep,
same amount of work to qualify for all of those things,
yep,
but theirs is distributed over ridiculous amounts more money.
yep,
Or like,
and they're capable of,
oh, and then
passing
they
that
pay
price
to
down
write the
onto the
law.
consumer in a very small amount. You can add
Yeah,
1% to the cost of your bottle of soap or your bottle of shampoo, and over the billions of bottles that you sell per year, or million, I don't even know how many much these people, but it adds up to a lot of money, where if you have to take, that price from the consumer in order to do X, Y, and Z, in order to appease these people, you're gonna have to add 10% to the cost of your product because you don't sell as much as them.
totally. Yeah, absolutely. And so these system like I think it's really fascinating. Like there's this whole debate about like regulation in general. Like some people are like, yes, we need to regulate all these things, blah, 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 blah. And other people, often people who have to deal with the regulations, are like, we shouldn't. And like, as almost always, there's like truth on both sides. Like, we should not let every company dump whatever they want in our waterways. We should not let them pollute as much as they want because that's just passing on their costs onto the environment and to us. Like,
Mhm.
it's not good.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we don't have waters catching, like rivers catching on fire. That's why people can breathe the air in general. However, like those same regulations are often like they increase the cost to people in ways that aren't beneficial to anybody but the regulators themselves.
Yep.
And so then they take on a life of their own to making the regulations themselves so detailed that it takes expertise in that.
Mhm.
And so there's whole industries that pop up around every one of these things, not just environmental regulations. There's billions of examples in every industry that this happens. And then they get like tax accounting is a great one. Then they become entrenched interest. Like taxes, I'm okay with taxes. I think they should be really freaking simple and like make sense. Like there I'm not like I'm okay with some taxes in society to pay for things. But a lot of the taxes, like they can't even like make taxes simple because um Intuit is like, oh, we want them to
Dude,
be complicated, so everybody has to buy TurboTax.
I was
Like,
thinking the same thing when I took an accounting class in college. Like, one of the first things that they told us was like, "All right, so like back when your grandfather owned a small shop, like everybody did accounting, like cash accounting. They would just kind of, calculate their profits and losses, and that was it. It was super easy. This is how they would do it. It would take no time whatsoever. But then we passed these regulations to make it to where you have to have essentially an accountant for every fucking business that exists nowadays. You have to have an accountant. They have to go through this extremely, difficult process of doing everything just and it makes no sense. Like if you have a small business, like you have a small business, if you can
yeah,
do your accounting through cash and not have to pay an accountant to go through all your crap, like why shouldn't you be able to do that, And as far as like regulations, like I was watching this video a while back. It was this guy is building like a small modular nuclear reactor that is like the size of a couple shipping containers that should be
like,
able to
is it
like
one of the thorium ones?
no, it was a typical style reactor, but it was
Uh,
just, it's a small nuclear reactor. And the guy was asking him like, "So what are some of like the most difficult things you've had to deal with? Like what were some of the things that, became a difficult task that you weren't expecting?" And immediately like I knew that the guy was looking for like engineering problems. That was the answer he was like going for, but I knew right away the guy was going to say regulations, and he was just like, "Oh, regulations, 100%." He's like, "Really? Regulations are tougher than engineering problems?" He's like, "Oh yeah, like engineering problems, like you can fix those. Like you just have
those
to."
have solutions.
Yes, like you just have to bring in smart people and you have to look at the problem in a different way and you have to run experiments and like we can figure out engineering problems, no problem. Regulations, like there is almost nothing you can do about it. You have to hire a specialist to deal with the regulators and it's just a nightmare. And I can imagine like you've probably had to deal with the same thing.
Th to back to, like, the soap being poison, there's, like, no rules.
Oh, well, you're lucky then, right?
It's crazy, like, some of the stuff like, the rules that we have for some things versus others is wild to me. Like, it's some things are regulated to within an inch of their life, and some things have nearly none, and, like, there probably should be a few more. Like, they can be simple. I I'm very pro simple regulations where like if that you're on the hook for the damage your stuff does. Like it's just like natural consequences for doing things. Like if you're 3M and you dump PFAS into the water next to your factory for 60 years, like you shouldn't get a slap on the wrist. You should like the shareholders should the company should basically be turned over and all the profits should go to fixing the problem they made. Like, but they should also like dealing with the regulation should be as simple as like if you do this, these are the consequences. Like
Yeah.
they shouldn't be like you have to do this form and this form and this form and this form. It should be like if you're dumping wastewater in the river, you have to pay to fix it.
Yeah. As far as
Like
I'm concerned, like, I'm a libertarian, like, I hate regulations, I hate taxes and taxation and stuff.
yeah, totally.
But, like, so, like, we had a situation crop up in my neighborhood recently where, a company bought a swath of land that was, like, right near my house, right near an airport, and they wanted to put a concrete batch plant there. And for some reason, the city in their infinite wisdom, like, when you have a new business like that going in, you put a sign up that says, "If you have a problem with this, come to city hall on this day and you debate it and bring your" well, they put that sign behind a closed and locked gate, so nobody could see it. So the thing got approved, and nobody knew it was gonna go in there until they were gonna start building the damn thing. And, the the group that put together like, resistance movement against it were hesitant about coming to me about it because they know that I'm, like, a libertarian, and I hate my HOA. I think my HOA is ridiculous. Like, before the meeting, they're all conservatives that wanna, talk shit about the liberals, you know, changing how everybody lives their lives, but then as soon as the meeting starts, they all turn into liberals and wanna, like, regulate everything that you do.
We all are everything.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, my house, though, is, like, right on the main street, and they wanted to put a sign in front of my house. So, like, they sent their top person to my house and was like, "We know that you're, like, private property, and you should be able to do what you want on your own private property, but, like, this concrete batch plant's gonna be really bad for everything." And I was like, "No, you guys, like, don't get where I'm coming from on this. Like, yeah, you should be able to do what you want with your private property, but, like, if you're polluting a waterway, like, example with 3M, or if you're polluting the air in your
With
neighborhood,
concrete
to me,
dust. Yeah.
that is an act of aggression. Like, you are coming into my neighborhood and you are pumping carcinogens into the air because, you wanna be close into town so your trucks don't have to, you don't have to pay
Drive
for
an
as
extra
much.
5 miles.
Exactly. You wanna destroy our roads and pollute our air, and to me, that's an act of aggression, and no, you can't do that. And, like, in a true free market, you would not be able to put that plant near homes because you are aggressing against the peaceful people who already live in that neighborhood. You can
Yeah.
take that plant and go somewhere else with it. You can, you could move it 2 or 3 miles down the road, and it wouldn't be around anybody, and it wouldn't be a problem for anyone. It's literally, and one of the one of the things that their lawyer, like, was preaching about in the community, like, meetings and debates that went on with this. He's like, "Well, look, if we don't have to drive as far, that's less pollution into the atmosphere." And we're like, "Come on, dude." Like, Idaho got rid of all of our smog laws because they got rid of smog laws because they're like, "Well, like, 90% of the vehicles on the road right now have been built in the last 5 years. So why do we need smog laws at this point?" Like, it's stupid. And, you've got these guys, like, trying to anyways, for some reason, like, you would think that most of the time in situations like that, the plant goes in. There's just not really anything you can do about it. And, the only saving grace that we had was the airport that was right next to it. And I was convinced this thing was going to pass. And then on the last day, somebody from the airport came in and was like, "I'm sure you guys don't know this, but, like, most of the funds that go to local airports are federal dollars. And one of the contingencies upon receiving those dollars is you keep the area around the airport clean and safe. And if we have this concrete batch plant going in, like, we're going to have to not only no longer get these grants from the federal government, but we're gonna have to pay back all of the grants that we've got in the past 50 years. So this is gonna be
Interesting.
millions and millions of dollars." And immediately, like, everybody on the city council was like, "Okay, no more. You're out of here."
Yeah, it is, I would call that you said it was like aggression.
Yeah.
and it is. I would I would say I would use an economic term, and where like a lot of those things, what need to be regulated are the costs of the externalities, the road, the
Yep,
dust pollution, the noise pollution, the road damage. Like if that company was actually paying for all of those things too, maybe they could put it in, but it would
they're
be
not.
very expensive. So they wouldn't. Like they would have to have massive and sound suppression systems and all these things to like, they want to foist those costs upon your neighborhood in this example.
Exactly.
And so that's where like companies should be responsible for their externalities. And if we just change that one little thing, if companies were responsible for their externalities, all of a sudden, like we would have way fewer problems. Like that one, like this regulations would get so much simpler. We wouldn't like they could come up with better solutions to avoid those externalities.
Yep.
Like I know my dad's got a plant in Caldwell. They do aluminum stuff and they have wastewater. And he's very environmentally conscious. He's like, I don't want to put stuff down the drain. So he has like a really he put in when he built the plant, he put in a really good filtration system because he's like, I should, because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, our water might be cleaner than the water that comes into our plant. But he's like, the number of forms I have to file, the number of this I have to file, the number of that I have to file are like astronomical. And like he had to hire somebody. It's not a big company. Like they had to hire somebody that's like mostly their full-time job is to deal with that stuff. And like he solved the problem before it even started. And like so like there's got to be some sort of like we should watch it. I don't know. And then when somebody does do something wrong and they get fined, especially the bigger the company, the less impactful the fine is on them.
Hmm.
Like they can do more and more heinous things and pay a smaller and smaller percent of their profits. Like
Yeah. And a lot
the
of
amount of money
times,
people made off Teflon and the versus the amount of damage it's done to the world
and
is absolutely astronomical. And they will pay, maybe they'll pay a whole like $3 billion fine
yeah, and they'll
when
do
they've made
like
like
a
$1 trillion off of it over the last half century.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. They'll do like a P&L on it and go like, "Look, we're gonna make a couple $1 billion off this, and we're gonna get fined a couple million. Who cares? Do it."
Totally. And then all of those costs get passed on to me, you, and the environment, and our kids, and our kids' kids, and our kids' kids' kids in some cases.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, there's got to be a better way. And to your, like, to bring it all the way around full circle, like, we're really all on the same team. Like, if you really step back and look at it, like, the difference between all of these different things, all these different people are so minimal. They're almost all based around wedge issues
Mhm.
that are
Designed to
insignificant in the
divide
grand
us.
scheme. Designed to be divisive, absolutely. Like, and they're all there is no focus put on like real issues
Mhm. And, like, as far as the
by the main
environment
powers.
goes, like, maybe pay less attention to changing the weather of the entire planet and more attention to the plant down the street and what they're actually doing. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times, like, especially with liberals, they're so engulfed in this environmentalism that, like, they're concerned about what is going on thousands of miles away with one company or one product or whatever it is, and they're not paying attention what's going on in the town around them. Like, one of the things that I hate so much about Nampa is that, like, I wish they would build some more parks and less business parks, you know? More
Yeah,
outdoor
Nampa is.
areas and
I
less.
lived in Nampa for a little while
Yeah,
back in the
less
day.
industrial plants, you know what I mean? Like, the light pollution in this area is just disgusting. Like, I grew up in Northern California, and you would think that, like, our skies were worse in Northern California than they would be in Idaho, but, like, you can't see stars here at all. You see nothing, you know what I
What
mean? And, like,
it's
we're so
it's
safe
true.
around here. It's like I live near Idaho Center on Nampa, and
Mhm.
and there's all those car dealerships there. It's like, there's no crime here. Why in the hell do you have to have your fucking car dealership lit up all night, every night, when there's no chance that you're gonna get robbed for the most part, and, like, maybe turn those things off at 10 o'clock at night so we can see the freaking stars every now and then, you know?
It's so I have an interesting so I grew up it was about 40 minutes from there,
Yeah.
exactly where you're talking about. When I was in college, I had a friend, he was Chinese, he was from Shanghai. He came back with me, it was a freshman year, he came back with me for Thanksgiving because he wasn't going to China. And, we got back really, really late, like 3 AM, because we were young, late night doesn't matter. We
Yeah.
get back 3 AM. It's freezing. I get there and we start going into the house and he stops and he looks up and he's just like staring at the sky. I'm like, come on, dude, it's so cold. He's like, what is that? I'm like, dude, that's the Milky Way. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And I go out to my parents' house now. They've built a whole bunch of like onion packing sheds around there and factories and stuff. Um, you can't, I haven't seen the Milky Way out there since for ages. Like, I can't even remember the last time I saw it out there. It used to be like every night.
Mhm.
And like that's an externality. Like there should be cost to that. Like it's and so we need to basically everybody agrees about that. The only people who benefit from not having to pay those externalities are the people in that car dealership because they don't want to have to put the hoods on. They don't have
Mhm.
to change out to like in Tucson or wherever they have like the amber lamps that
Yeah.
don't
Or
block the night sky as much.
diffuse
There's
lighting.
solutions.
There are.
They're they're not even that expensive, but people don't want to pay the externalities when they don't have to. And I think that's like fighting bullies and making people pay for their externalities. Like those are like the most important things for government. And instead, they figure out ways to spy on us, take our money, control us, and convince us to bomb people that have never done us any harm because Lockheed Martin makes a lot of money.
Yeah, and fight
And I
with your
think basically
neighbor
everybody agrees on that.
and
Like,
fight with your
okay,
neighbor on their behalf.
right.
Which is so
Yeah.
sick, you know? Like, they've weaponized us against our neighbors to where you think your neighbor is the problem instead of, like, the actual federal government that's doing all this crap. Like, I had a neighbor recently, like, I used to have a couple flags out in front of my house. I would have, like, a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, and then for a while, like, I ran this Black American flag because I'm an anarchist and, like, I don't really believe in the state, and, like, that's a black flag is the flag of anarchy essentially, and like without going deep into that, like I got this letter from one of my neighbors that was like, why do you want to kill your neighbors, and just like all of this crazy insane stuff. And like one of the things that he put in it, and like I found out who this guy was even though he was a coward and didn't sign his name to it. He was like one of the heads of our HOA, and he put in it like, back in my day we used to care for our neighbors, and we didn't care what religion they were or what political affiliation they had, blah, 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 blah. I'm so great. And you're such a sick person for having a black flag in your yard. And then I find out who this guy was, and I was like, oh, you're the guy that tried to put a lien on my house after I had my amputation and I couldn't take care of my yard. So much for helping your neighbors. Like instead of coming over and going, "Hey, man, I know you're going through it. You're going through a divorce. You just had your arm amputated." I live
Can
up
I
the
mow your
street.
lawn for you,
Yeah,
bro?
I live up the street. I have a ride-in lawnmower. I can ride down here and have your front lawn mowed in 20 minutes every week. Like, it's not a big deal. I'll throw away the grass into your can for you, so all you have to do is take it out. Instead, they threatened to put a lien on my house for it.
Like, just think, just take that one act of could have been, should have been, would have been kindness, multiply that times, 100 million acts to people who across our country, everybody knows, sees something. Like, we, man, we'd be so much better off if there's just a little more kindness, a
Mhm.
little more understanding, a little more
Empathy.
thoughtful, and a little less like going to your corners and pretending like things are a battle
Yeah,
because they're not.
these
Like, we're on
HOA
the same team,
people,
man.
they
We
want a
want to live
battle.
good, happy,
Yeah,
healthy lives,
yeah,
and just like let's pretend we're on the same team.
yeah. Live and let live, Like, let people live their lives. If they need help, like, help them out, Like, it's just It's really a sick thing that people have gotten in my lifetime. Like, things have just changed so much. Like, the town that I grew up in was a small town of 5,000 people, and like you knew everybody and you cared about everybody. And the biggest problem in the town was whose kid was getting the most playing time in football. you
Yeah.
know like that was
Yep.
those were the big problems. And now it's like these political knockdown, drag out political battles to the end of the earth over who can get married to who, and what type of where you separate your garbage. And it's just, we've fallen so far. Like, we're around the same age, I think. Like, we grew up in a fun country. Like, people had fun. You know what I mean? Like, I saw a video a while back of, like, it was a NASCAR race with like Apache helicopters flying over the top of it. Like, and like, I was never really into NASCAR, but I look at that and I go, like, people were having fun. Like, that was
Yeah.
something that was like fun. And you don't see stuff like that anymore. Now when they do it, it's like, oh, Trump's going to take his airplane over it and do it. So it becomes this like knockdown, drag out battle over, like, should Trump be at the NASCAR event. And it's just, you know, and honestly, like, people are so into sports. It's kind of sickening that, like, I used to be really into sports, and it was kind of the same. Like, I was, grew up in Northern California. I was a 49ers and a Giants fan. And then, like, after
Yep.
living in the city and watching how the owners of the teams operated, I came to the same realization that I came to over Ford and Chevy. Like, these aren't teams. All this is like a plaything for a billionaire. And they're the ones making the decisions, not the players, not the coaches. And like,
Yeah.
when I have this 49ers hat on, I'm not like representing a team that like represents my city or my state. Like, it's for a billionaire who's having fun. And like, it just kind of killed it for me. And I don't know. I
W
don't
and
um,
yes, and it's another, like, one of these sources of weird tribalism. Like, there's one thing to be
yeah.
like, we live my grandpa's from Northern California. I kind of inherited I was a Niners fan too. And we live up in Seattle, Seahawks country now. And, like, the vitriol I hear people talking about, like, for these people playing a game, I'm like, I mean, it's one thing to be, like, talking trash to a guy you're, like, going up against in the moment, and after the game's over, you hug it out. Like,
Yeah.
you do that to your friends. Like, there's all, but like, you and me, like, we are so many steps removed from this. Like, we are fighting vicariously for people who aren't enemies over a game that isn't real, over, like,
Yeah.
what is happening? Like, why are we, like, setting up things to be so confrontational? Like,
Yeah.
why?
I
I
worked at
don't know,
a
man.
I worked at a sports bar in San Francisco. So like that's like, and at the time, like, the Giants were good, the 49ers were good. There was Super Bowls and World Series that I like got to see. And like, we, we were work like, our sports bar was on Pier 39, which is like the,
Yeah.
touristy area in the city. And like, at one point I went online and found like these fan groups that, we were always trying to bring people in who were traveling to come and watch the games because we had a
Yeah.
lot of TVs and we played all the different games and stuff like that. And it was like, hey, why don't we have these fan groups come in and like use our bar as their meeting place? And we had this big group of Texans fans and this big groups of Seattle Seahawks fans come in and do these big things. And the locals that we had coming into the bar hated it. They're like, "Why are you bringing? This is our city, and they shouldn't be. You should be supporting our team." And it's like, dude, I'm still wearing my 49ers jersey, but like, we're trying to make money. Like, I'm trying to
Right.
make money as a bartender. My owner and managers are trying to make money as a business. Like, and we're also like, these people are coming to town to go to the game anyways. Like, why not give them some place to meet up and have fun and enjoy themselves while they're
Like,
here,
it's
you
it's a
know?
game, and, like, you have fun with it too, rib them a little bit, like, there's some fun to
Exactly.
that, like, good-natured ribbing is fun.
Yeah.
Like, my brother and I, we went to a 49ers game a couple years ago up here, we went in Seattle, and people had a good time, like,
Yep.
just being, like, talking a little trash, and then when it's over, you're just like, "Hmm, that was fun.
Yeah.
Have a good," like, there's a whole lot of difference between, like, vitriol and be like, "I hate them, like, I can't stand them, blah, blah, blah," to being like, "Cool, that was fun."
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy. Politics has just become another sporting event,
It is.
really.
It
It
is.
is a sporting event that people have picked sides on,
Yep.
and, like,
It's
you,
unhealthy.
like, and it's so unhealthy, and it's so counterproductive, and it's so, like, the opposite of what is beneficial to anybody. Like, just, like, turn on any sports radio show and hear people talk about, like, the games and the teams and, like, the wild, like, fervent belief and love and everything, and you're like, "Okay, cool, that's a game, who cares? If you wanna do that, that's fine." And then people are like, "Yeah, but I wanna do that so you can't get married. I wanna do that so, like."
And dude, like for me, I'm being a libertarian, both sides hate me for different reasons. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? It's like
Totally.
the left hates me because I like guns and the right hates me because I think marijuana should be legal. You know what I mean? Like, dude, one of
Totally.
the we'll get out of here in a minute because we're already like an hour and a half in. So like
Oh, shit.
one of my favorite like clips during COVID was I started watching Tucker Carlson like once a week during COVID, not because like I was into what he was saying. Like he said some good things. He said some things I didn't like. But I wanted to hear like what right wing, like millions of right wingers were hearing on a nightly
Yeah.
basis. Like it was the most popular show on, political show on TV. So I wanted to hear what everybody was
I
hearing, you
I would
know?
do that sometimes too.
Yeah. So, like, he brought this liberal on and he was, like, talking about the vaccine, and it's like, "See, this liberal says my body, my choice." And he's making, this point, like, the vaccine and abortion are the same thing, and it's like, "Okay, whatever." And then the next segment, there wasn't even a commercial in between. He brings somebody on to say, like, why marijuana should be illegal. And it's like, dude, you've gotta have some freaking principles here. Like, if it's my body, my choice for the vaccine, then it has to be the same thing for marijuana. Like, you can't just erase your principles when you don't like the thing that's going into somebody's body. And like that
Yeah.
was to me the biggest problem. And like we have that problem here in Idaho where like especially with like the Republicans who are running the state, like we've got this they're going to put like I guess it's a measure or a bill or whatever it's going to be on the ballot in 2026 where if the vote is yes, then you will no longer be allowed to put marijuana or recreational marijuana on a ballot. It will be up to the legislature to decide if it
Oh,
can be legal or
wow.
not legal. And
Like,
one of their like justifications for this was like it's the government's responsibility to make sure that people live a good life. And drugs do not accomplish that. And it's like, dude, so you're taking power away from the people because you think that you know what they should be doing with their life and what they should be putting into their body. Like to me, that's just sick. And it's one of the worst things. And like, I agree with them on other things. Like a lot of these people are pro Greater Idaho. And it's like, yeah, let's do that. But also, like, let's not erase our principles and go and legislate what kind of medicine people can take. I think that's just sick.
I there's so much hypocrisy that it is people cannot. I don't know if people just ignore it or they rationalize it or what it is, but, like, if you have a belief system that maybe it's just based in principles like you were saying, and you stop and look at it, you're like, you're not being principled. You're being hypocritical. There's so much of it. And maybe that's what it is. They just don't have principles. They just want
Power.
their worldview to be view that for everybody. They're like, I don't want to smoke marijuana, so therefore nobody should want to smoke marijuana. Cool. But like, I want to own guns. Therefore everybody should have to deal with me owning guns. Like, I don't know. Like it's a there's so many of those.
Yeah, and
And it's
that's
nobody
what
has a
I love
monopoly on it.
about,
No
like
group has a monopoly on it.
yeah, and that's, like, what I love about libertarian theory is, like, it's based on bodily autonomy and the non-aggression principle, and you can just apply that to any of these issues and go like, "Okay, let's take everything from what, like, let's take this packaged deal that they're showing me on social media or the news, and let's break it all the way down to first principles and decide, okay, if I'm going to apply these principles in every situation, like, where does this fall? And do I, why should this be, there's things that, like, I think should be legal or illegal that, I don't really agree with. Like, I don't think that most people should be smoking marijuana every day. I really
Agree.
don't think that people should be doing heroin, Like, I was a drug addict for a long time, and, like, drugs are very destructive to your life. Like, they can really destroy you. At the same time, like, I think that you have ownership over your body, and you should be able to put those things into your body if you want to, and, like, all we're doing with prohibition of these drugs is creating black markets, more crime. We're filling up private prisons, and, like, we're destroying people's lives who are already destroying their life, you
And
know?
not just lives in our country. Like, we're destroying
Yes.
so many lives in Mexico. Like, the
Yep.
war on drugs, it's like it is crazy to me how little accountability politicians take for the chaos that we are causing in Mexico
Yeah.
and other countries with our policies. Like, it is so, like, you're like, "Oh, we're so angry about immigrants coming here." And I'm like, well, I don't know. You kind of destabilize most of their country by
Yeah.
giving guns and unlimited cash to horrible people. Like, I don't know. Maybe solve a problem that you have some control over a little bit.
Yeah.
On
Ending
the
the
other
war on
side, I'm
drugs.
with you. Like, I think drugs in general are not good, but I think unlimited funds to cartels is worse. Prohibition of alcohol is a great example.
Yeah.
Alcohol causes tons of damage in our country.
I think
It's
it's the
probably the
worst.
most damaging thing in our
Yep.
country
I think it's the worst of all of them.
because of volume. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
It's
I think
so easy
like
to get. It's so
individually
hard to
heroin's
quit.
worse, but
No, but,
yeah,
I've known a lot of drug addicts and I've known a lot of alcoholics, and to be honest, the alcoholics that I know have destroyed their lives as bad or worse than a lot of the drug addicts that
I
I
believe
know.
it too.
You
Yeah.
know? Like, you can
Um,
like, I've had family members who have been, like, functional drug addicts who take meth and coke and not so much heroin, like, it's hard to be a functioning heroin addict, but, like, I guess I'm kind of a functioning heroin addict. Like, I take, opioids for pain every day, and I don't think about it anymore. I don't take more than I should, and it doesn't really affect my life in any way. It just kind of helps with the pain that I deal with. So, I guess that kinda counts, but, like,
yeah,
I doing line work as a lineman, I knew a lot of guys that did meth and were able to get the job done. They were able to not destroy their lives, and I know people that did destroy their lives doing meth. But that being said, like, it's very, very hard to be a functional alcoholic because you can't really drink while you're at work all day. It affects your physical well-being. Like, it you're a different person when you're on alcohol than you are when you're on meth. Like, meth, you're up and you're, ripping and roaring, but you're kind of still able to think in a lot of ways, like, depending on how bad it is for you. Where alcohol, like, if you're having to, like, maintenance drink throughout the day, you're gone. You're not able to function properly, and you're putting people in serious, serious danger a lot of the times. Like, I rent rooms at my house, and I have an alcoholic living here right now who is just absolutely destroying his life. And he is just non-functional during the day. And the guy works at a fucking school, and it's just
yeah.
one of those things where it's like, I I I wish that, like, it was easier for people to get off of these things. It's not. But, like, you have to let people make their own choices, and it should be on the school to, like, be testing these people from time to time. Like, it's insane to me that, like, you can work at a school and, like, the guy has open containers in his car. He leaves marijuana, like, open in his car, and it's like, this guy's parking his car like that at a school every day. And to me, like, that A, like, it should be on the school to be maintaining the safety of the children that he is working around, and B, like, should, like, have legal consequences for drinking and driving and having open
Yeah.
containers in his car. But at the same time, like, I don't want to take away his ability to do that. It's on him to be able to keep his life in order and keep his job and, keep the people safe around him. Like,
But there are consequences for actions,
yeah,
and I think, like, we should let people have those consequences and not they're gonna do it anyway,
yep,
whether we make it illegal or not. There's no, like, well, we live in Washington State. People smoke more weed here than they would if it was illegal, but it's not, like, astronomically more.
and
You know
the
what I mean?
and the
Like,
state
people who
hasn't been
smoke are gonna smoke.
And the state hasn't been destroyed since it's gone legal. Like, there's
No.
peaks in every state where it goes recreational legal. There's, like, peaks of usage and peaks of DUIs and stuff like that, but it's kind of mellowed out since then, and it's been, like 10, 15 years now to where, like, some of these states have had recreational marijuana legal, and, like, you can drive I'm sure you, like, drive around in your city and you don't see people smoking weed everywhere. You don't smell weed when you go into every business. Like, there's
No.
not people, like, killing people on the streets every day over weed. There's not tons of accidents where people die over marijuana. Like, it
No.
hasn't been this, like, I think it's been a successful run in a lot of these states to where, like, it's gotten a lot of people off of opioids because they're able to medicate. Like, I know a lot of people in Idaho that drive over the Oregon border to go and buy marijuana because it helps with, like, we were at, like, my mom's married to a cop, and, like, we were at a birthday party recently, and a lot of the people there were, like, taking medical marijuana, and not at the time, but, like, did in their
Yeah.
lives, you know what I mean? And, like, having the discussion around, like, the table about it, it's like, how can you not allow these people to, and, like, if I could do it safely and if it wasn't so expensive, like, I'm scared to drive it over because it's so illegal here that, like,
I know, it's
you
crazy.
can you can get in
I grew
s
up
yeah, you can get in
really close to
so much
Ontario. I
trouble.
know
So, like,
exactly.
I'm too
Yeah.
scared to do the transport of it at this point because, like, I have a record, and if you pull me over and pull my record, there's gonna be a decent chance that you're gonna wanna search my car, and, like, I just don't wanna put myself in that position anymore. But, like,
Totally. For
if
the
I could
like,
drive up the street and buy medical marijuana for a decent price, like, I would do that because it does help with a lot of different things, and, like, these are successful people that it has not destroyed their life. It is not like they're at a birthday party and they're not doing it in the bathroom. You know what I mean?
right.
So,
The prohibition of marijuana is the most obvious example of the state punishing people that they don't like of any of the
yep,
prohibitions that I know of. Like the Nixon era, they're like, we don't like the hippies, we're going to punish them
yep,
because and black and brown people, because they were the primary people who smoked marijuana.
yep,
So let's punish our opponents and reward our donors, who presumably are the alcohol companies because they were big at the time.
yep. All right.
Anyway,
Well, I really do have to go this time because my
yeah,
computer just popped up. It's gonna die. I forgot to plug it in when we started,
sounds
so
good.
I do
Yeah, I
really have
do
to
get
go this
long
time.
winded.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love this type of stuff. So, tell people where they can buy your shampoo. I'm gonna order some. I got to try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's seabar.com, seabar.com. We pick up a pound of ocean trash for each one we sell, trying to help people use less plastic and clean up the mess we've already made a little bit. It's really good stuff. It works really well. And yeah, I hope you try it and like it and quit. Like, four companies make 70 or 80% of the shampoo and conditioner in the country. All of them aren't in it for your benefit. So,
Yeah, most of them are not in it for your benefit. They're in it for their
yep,
benefit, right? All right.
absolutely. So,
Well, I
I would
will have
appreciate it. Give it a try.
yep,
And
I'll have the link in the description. So go and get yourself some nice clean soap and get rid of that fragrant, like, man, I think
artificial
it's the
fragrances,
fragrances
and
that really get you on this
yeah, we use
stuff.
all natural
Yeah,
fragrances.
yeah. I've
Like, I'm
I've been
super
using,
anal
like,
about
all
that
natural
stuff.
soap for a while now, and gosh, it's helped my skin so much.
Nice.
All
I
right,
love it.
man. It was a pleasure meeting you, and we'll do this again sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.